Hi, welcome to Her Voice of Truth, a place where Christian women tell their testimonies. This is your host, Tina Babina. So here's my story. With my family, I was born and raised into a Christian home. And that is by choice, with the decision of what my father and mother has decided. Because I am a Hmong woman, I was born into a Hmong family, and most Hmong families come from a background of a religion called shamanism. And that is kind of like calling upon the ancestors. It's more of a spiritual thing and trading off things, sacrificing animals to do a trade-off and things like that with the spirits. So with me growing up in a Christian home, my mother, I recall, would teach us how to pray. Almost every night, we would kneel on the ends of the bed and just take turns praying. And I'll talk later about that, how it became a wonderful skill set or a tool. And then by the time I was about 15, I chose to get baptized. And then from there, I got married right before I turned 16. This was something that was common in our Hmong community. And so life happened, and 3 months later, I was expecting our first child. And at 16 by that time, I was nervous, I was scared, and I didn't know how it was gonna look like because I was still in high school. So a teen mom, yes. And so life went on, and once I graduated, I did surprisingly graduated on time. And as soon as we graduated that summer, my husband was like, hey, we're moving from Minnesota, because at this time we were in Michigan. And I was like, how did this cross your mind? He's like, Minnesota has the banking businesses there. I want to go there and I want to build a career there. And so that's where we're going. So we just packed up our bags and our son. And by that time, he was about 11 months old, just getting ready to start walking a little bit. We get to Minnesota by August of 2002. And then I went to a temp agency and then started working at a huge bank in the mortgage department. The funny thing was, my birthday is in September, early September. And the agency called me and they're like, hey, can you work on Monday? Because they need you on Monday. And I'm like, well, I'm still 17. I won't be 18 until the next couple days. Can I still work? They're like, oh, sorry. No, let's wait until you're 18. So straight into corporate at the age of 18, no college degree. Been in the corporate world since then, did some college, and I still don't have a degree today. However, 23 and a half years later, here I am, laid off. But that's okay. In the midst of all of this as well, by this time, I already have 3 kids. As of today, I have 3 adult kids. And in the midst of it, my husband and I stepped into the ministry at the age of 24 and 27. We became landlords and invested in our first real estate investment at the age of 27 and 30 years old. Life has been just going 100 miles per hour, always in the fast lane. That's just kind of how we function. And so in the midst of it, we bought our second real estate investment, and there was a lot of work to be done. And this was about 2018 going into 2019. And in April of 2019, I started having weird symptoms. I didn't know why I was getting these symptoms. It first started with hiccups, constant hiccups, like nonstop. I did all the home remedies. It did not get rid of it. It was exhausting. You don't realize that if you're having constant hiccups, how exhausting it is with your breathing. It's interrupting your sleep. It's using different sorts of muscles, and it's tiring. It led from then to random hyperventilation, to constant coughing, to just vomiting out everything that I was eating and drinking. And this lasts for a good month and a half. I went to see my doctor. She's a nurse practitioner. She told me to see all these specialists, even a surgeon, and nothing was guaranteed. And some of the tests, or all the tests, came out negative. I had to visit her week after week, and I was losing so much strength, you guys. Like, I could barely push out my voice. I could barely walk. I could barely hold the steering wheel to drive to see my nurse practitioner. And by this time, it might have been the 4th, 5th, 6th visit. I don't know. I lost track. She walks in, rolls her eyes at me, and then sits me down and says, okay, fill out this form. We're going to see if this is going to tell us if you're depressed or not. And a lot of it had that sad face to all the way up to a happy smiley face. And a lot of the question did not apply to me because I was just so weak. But then a lot of it was sad face. Like, are you happy to be around family and friends and enjoy the outdoors? Well, I couldn't because I was lacking so much strength. And so then she just diagnosed me with having depression, told me I had work block, and said I was depressed and have anxiety and I need to see therapists or counseling ASAP. And so she pretty much gave up on me. So the week goes on and I realized that my left leg felt kind of weak. You know, when you're lacking blood circulation, I was just thinking maybe I'm just like, my blood circulation isn't, the greatest. So I would keep shaking off my legs to get the blood flowing. Each day it got a little weaker. After 3 days, I was like, okay, it's not getting better. I have to go to the ER. And so then my mother-in-law and my oldest son drove me to the ER. Of course, the long wait, right? But eventually they got me a room and they ordered an MRI. This is, you guys, the 3rd visit to ER in the midst of this whole month and a half. And by this time, I've lost 15 pounds. I can't hold any food or liquids, mind you. After my MRI results came in, the ER doctor comes in immediately and she's like, Tina, you have such a big mass inflammation happening in the lower region of your brain. And it's about the size of a softball. And I'm going to give you such a high dosage of steroids to tame that inflammation that's happening. I'm going to give you 2,500 milligrams. And that's like a bomb. Because on a normal base, a patient I normally give is 250 milligrams. And so you're going to get admitted to the hospital. By this time, my husband is at the hospital. My son and mother-in-law went back home. He drove me to a different hospital that had space and probably just more equipment and the right doctors that will come through to analyze and observe what's going on. I get there the next morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness. I feel so much better. I haven't felt like this. I felt like I came back to life. And I was able to eat a full breakfast without vomiting. And so then they had a neurologist come in and he was looking through my chart and seeing all my symptoms. And he kept asking me, do I see double vision? Do I have this or that? And what's going on? And he thinks that I might be diagnosed with something, but then my symptoms weren't really matching up either. I was in the hospital for, I believe, 5 days with just a ton of tests going on. I had a spinal tap. I had another MRI. I had a CT scan, a ton of blood drawn out of me every single day, every morning and night, just trying to find answers. After the 5th day, they were gonna discharge me, and I was scared. I was scared because I still didn't have my full strength back yet by that time. And I'm going home with no treatment plan. It's just a follow-up with a neurologist in the next 6 months. And I'm like, how am I going to be with from now to the next 6 months? I'm afraid I might get some kind of relapse. I don't even know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. Because it reminded me that I did not want to go back to those sleepless nights when my mind was running. You guys, in that month and a half, every night, I did not know if I was going to wake up. That's how scary it was. I felt like I was on my deathbed every night because I was so weak. My symptoms were nonstop. I couldn't hold anything in. I was pretty much malnourished. And it was hard to feel excited and look forward to the next day because you just don't know if the next day will come. And so that is what scared me most. I want to rewind too. In the midst of that month and a half, I had to keep my mind sane. I had to stay grounded. The only thing that kept me grounded was to hold on to hope and know that I'll get through this. And that hope, it came from Jesus Christ. I would pray and cry and just say, Lord, all I have is hope in you. I was scared. I didn't know what the future was going to hold. I still have 3 kids at that time. They were still teenagers. My husband, a huge renovation project that still needs to be finished. And I was like, Lord, I know you're not done with me yet. I just know. We will pause here for the next episode. In the meantime, if you're listening, I am looking for more women who is willing to do an interview with me about their testimonies. Or if you are shy, you can write me your testimony and I am happy to be the storyteller of your testimony. You could email me at hervoiceoftruthpodcast@gmail.com. So stay tuned for more as we continue my testimony, and I appreciate it. I will see you next time. Bye.